Welcome into the very first ever episode of Growth Profits, the show that is all about you having happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. We're so happy to be with you. Today we're going to talk about
why nobody's buying what you ain't selling.
Nobody's buying what you're not selling. Stay with us. Hi folks, I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
We don't want to change the way you do business.
We want to change the way you're thinking about your business.
We want you to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Let's get it started.
And welcome back. As I said, this is the first ever, the inaugural episode.
Number one, Uno.
The number one Uno episode of Growth Profits Live. So what is this about and what is it that we're trying to do? First, let's do some introductions. My name is Sean Crabtree.
I'm Cameron Bailey.
Our company is called the Crabtree Group. All we do is grow businesses. We have worked with businesses from Vancouver in British Columbia, Canada to Barbados, and from Nassau in the Bahamas all the way to the Great Lakes. In essence, what we do is help you in the service business have happier clients, better results, make more money, and enjoy the ride. And that is exactly what this show is all about. Every single week, we're going to come to you live just outside Nashville, Tennessee in our studios, high noon Central Time every Wednesday, talking about subjects that matter to you. And they're all about you having happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. If you'd love to know more about us, I won't take any more time in this podcast, but if you'd love to know more about us, please find us at thecrabtreegroup.com and learn everything there is to know, or satisfy all of your questions. How about that? So today's show is about the number one thing. As Cameron said, this is an issue that we face all the time, and the title is
Nobody's buying what you ain't selling. What does that mean? What does that mean? Let that sink in for a minute.
And
nobody's buying what you ain't selling.
And so the title may not say ain't selling, but you know.
It says ain't selling.
Does it?
Yeah.
We are coming to, we can say that because
you ain't selling it.
Because we are coming. You got Mr. Producer tickle back there. So we're coming to you live each week just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I know it's hard to pick up on our accent. Some people think we've got that Manhattan kind of an accent, or maybe that Chicago, Illinois kind of an accent. But trust me, folks, it is absolutely from southern Middle Tennessee. As a matter of fact, this boardroom you'll probably recognize as being somewhere in the bowels of Jack Daniels. Is that true?
No.
Okay. So we are just down the road from Jack Daniels. So nobody's buying what you're not selling. Here's the thing. This podcast and this show every single week is dedicated to you in the service business. Whatever service business you're in, central heating and air, if you are an accountant, if you're a CPA, if you're in the financial services,
insurance,
if you're in insurance, whatever service business is that you're in, listen, that's what this show is about, and that's why we come to you every single week at high noon on Wednesdays. So what are we talking about today? Nobody's buying what you are not selling. What you ain't selling.
What you ain't selling. Nobody's buying it. Why is nobody buying it?
So here's the thing. This is the way I look at it. There's 2 or 3 things that we would like to get across to you. 2 or 3 major points that you can take away and 2 or 3 things that you can do about it. Why is it that most people are not selling? For us to be able to get some solutions, we got to ask that question. Now, you're in the service business. You're in a service industry. You understand
whether you like it or not, you have to sell.
That you have to sell. But here's the thing. The number one issue that we see why people are not selling. And remember, nobody's buying it if you ain't selling it. The number one reason that we see that people are not selling is because at the end of the day, as Gerber says, you know what? We live in the greatest country on the planet Earth, and whatever it is that you are great at, you can turn that into a business. So chances are, if you're in the IT business, or if you're a central heat and air guy, or if you're a dentist, or if you're a CPA, or whatever it is that you are, the chances are really good that you got into that particular industry and in that business because at the end of the day, you really like the concept of insurance, or you really like the numbers on a CPA, or you like the clinical aspects of dentistry. But you know what? You didn't get into it because you love the idea of sales, but you gotta face the fact, right?
Nobody's buying what you aren't selling. You got into it because you loved the business. You loved whatever the situation about that business is. But in order for you to be able to achieve those things, you have to learn to sell.
And that means that...
You know what my dad told me a long time ago?
What'd he say?
My dad told me a long time ago when I was growing up.
Ron Bailey was probably imparting some wisdom.
He told me a long time ago when I was growing up, he said, son, in order for anything in the United States of America to happen,
somebody got to sell something.
Somebody, somewhere had to sell something.
Absolutely.
Period.
And you know what? You've got to get clear on that. I would even go a step further and say this. You've got to put the exciting thing that you got into the business about, you got to put that on hold. You got to put that aside, and you have got to focus on your ability to sell. Let me give you a great example. Cameron and I just updated our offices recently with all of our IT stuff, our servers, and all this kind of stuff. Now, before we did that, we were having a little bit of an issue, so we called an IT guy. This IT guy, he obviously really got off on the IT. So he looked at all of our stuff. He spent a couple of hours diving into what all the situations, what all the issues are, and he found out a little bit about what it is that we do. And then he sat down in my office and he started spouting all of this IT language that I had no earthly idea what the guy was saying.
Your flux capacitor is blocked up. That's the problem.
He was talking about the flux.
You got a blocked up flux capacitor.
And he was talking about flux capacitors, and he was talking about
Cat 5 this,
blinker fluid, and
all kinds of stuff.
Cat 5s and server this, and using all this lingo. And I had no earthly idea what the heck it is that he was saying. And I realized at that moment, he's not made the switch. He doesn't understand that he's got to sell me on this. He's trying to communicate all this IT lingo that I don't understand any of it, right? He's got to learn to create value. Now, what I did is I stopped him. I said, look, dude, with all due respect, you've been talking for 6 minutes, and I got no earthly idea what it is that you just said. Here's what I want to know. You know what's going on. You know what's important to me. Tell me how, whatever it is that you think I need, whatever that is, the thing that you think I need, tell me how that's going to get me the things that I'm looking to achieve in terms of what we do in this office. He goes, sure, here's what you need and here's why. Great. How much is it? I'll take it, right? And that's the way it went. But now I could have let him go on for another 20 minutes talking about flux capacitors and blinker fluid. So the number one reason that we see is people are not buying what you're not selling because you don't see, right, because you're not selling it. Because at the end of the day, you got into the business because you like the technical or the tactical or the clinical aspects of what it is that you do. You've got to make a conscious shift in your mind that, hey, the stuff that gets me all fired up and geared up, it doesn't fire up the rest of the people. They don't want to know about blinker fluid and flux capacitors, right? So you've got to put yourself as the number one priority in your head is create value. Get away from all of the jargon and stuff that you do. So the number two thing, the number one reason that we see that people are not selling it is because they don't get fired up on sales.
Well, they don't. And to be specific on number one, you didn't get into the business that you're in to be a salesperson.
Right. You got into it because you like the stuff you do.
Because you were doing something else. So you've got to change that mindset of, my belief is, in order for me to be great at what I do, being a great salesperson is a tool and a trait that I have to become.
So since you said that, let me expound on this just a little bit more.
Okay.
To be able to change my mindset, I got to understand how the psychology of all this works, right? You know, if you know anything about psychology, if you remember some of the stuff, there's something called the reticular activating effect. Basically, the gist of it is common sense. The gist of it is this. Whatever's at the forefront of my brain, I will move myself in that direction. Well, whatever is the number one focus on my mind, I will consciously and subconsciously move myself in that direction. If the number one foremost thing on my mind is flux capacitors, blinker fluid, and server blah, 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 then I'm not able to create value. I got to shift it in my mind and say the number one focus is I've got to create value. That's sales, right? I've got to be focused on selling, not focused on communicating all of this jargon. Now, if that's number one, this goes right into the number two thing. The number two reason that we see that people are not selling it is because they don't even like the word sales. They have an aversion to the word sales.
They're uncomfortable when it comes to sales.
What are they?
Uncomfortable. Sales
with the word sales.
Sales is icky. It feels dirty. I don't like it. Manipulative.
Now, this one, I got to be honest with you, I've never understood that.
Because you're natural. You're natural.
I don't know that I'm natural, but I was taught the same thing your dad taught you, which is, hey, in order for the world to turn, somebody somewhere has to sell something.
Yeah.
Now, if you detest the word sales,
or if you got a bad feeling about it,
you're not going to be able to put it in the foremost of your mind, and you're not going to go for it. So you got to get past number two. If you don't like the word sales, here's what I tell you to do. And you're going to have some different advice on this, but here's my advice on this, okay? Ask yourself why it is that you don't like the word sales or the concept of sales or the profession of sales. Now, my experience is in the last 20 plus years when I've asked people, what is it you don't like about sales? The things I hear generally speaking are, I just think of the vacuum cleaner salesman who knocks on my door, or I think of the icky car salesman. You know what? Here's what I would say. There are bad vacuum cleaner salesmen on the planet Earth. They're pushy, they're manipulative, whatever. Same thing is true with car salesmen. You know what? Here's the other thing. There are also icky HVAC people. There are icky attorneys. Not itchy.
There might be some itchy ones.
That's a different conversation. We're not going to go there.
That's
a different channel.
How to get so itchy.
Right. There are icky judges. There are icky dentists. There are icky medical doctors, right? But at the end of the day, when you run into a bad doctor, you don't dislike the medical profession. And that's the same thing I would say when it comes to sales. Yes, there are bad salespeople. That doesn't mean sales is bad, right? If you're not an Alabama fan, I mean, if you are not a fan of the University of Alabama, that doesn't mean that Crimson is bad, does it?
Depends on who you ask.
Well, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sales is a word that you have to control what you associate with the word, right?
And listen, you're never going to get to number one, which is putting a priority at the forefront of your mind. That's what we talked about in number one. Most people are not selling because they didn't get into business to be salespeople. But you know what? You got to shift and make that your number one focus. I got to understand I got to sell it. Now, you also got to get past number two. If you don't like the word sales, you're not going to be able to make it foremost in your mind. So the way you get past sales, in my view, I'd love to know what you think is, you got to ask yourself a question. Do I dislike sales because I've got bad experiences with salespeople? And if that's the truth, then you know what? There's bad people in any profession. Doesn't mean the profession is bad. Right? And it also doesn't mean that it's manipulative, and it doesn't mean that it's pushy. It's about creating value. We're going to talk about that at a very high level in the upcoming episodes. Sales is actually a good thing, but you've got to get past disliking it or detesting the word before you can ever make it a number one focus for
or
yourself.
Even being uncomfortable. I think a lot of it is maybe there's a lot of people out there listening. I could be wrong, but maybe they don't detest the word sales, but maybe they're uncomfortable.
I think there are a lot of people who do detest it.
Well, they probably do. But there's probably some that are uncomfortable with sales, and a lot of the reason is because they haven't put themselves in a position where they could have a systematic approach to being able to actually sell.
Right. And so they just have a bad taste in their mouth and they don't even pursue it.
Right.
But no kidding. For number two, to get past detesting the word sales or just not, like Cameron said, being uncomfortable with the word sales, then you got to really ask yourself, why is it that I don't like it? And is it because of some bad experiences? And if it is, then ask yourself, is that about the profession or is that about the people? And I will guarantee you'll come to the right conclusion. It's about the people. And at the end of the day, there's bad people in every profession. Right? So, what are the top three things that are preventing you from selling. Number one,
nobody's buying what you are not selling.
Nobody's buying what you're not selling. So why are you not selling it? Number one reason we hear is because you didn't get into business to be a salesperson. But you got to change that by making the foremost focus in your mind, I have to love sales, and I got to get past the thing that motivated me. I can't make that my priority. Number two, if you detest the word, you got to dive in and ask yourself why you detest it and really come up with the conclusion that at the end of the day, it's probably about people, not about the profession. The number three thing that we run into all the time, and it's kind of an excuse.
It's always an excuse.
It is an excuse.
It's always an excuse.
But the number three thing is nobody's buying what you're not selling. And the number three reason that we see people not selling is because you know what? They're stuck in the do. Now, what do you mean by that?
Stuck in the do. You're stuck in the day-to-day. You're stuck in the position where you're working in your business. So therefore, you got no ability to work on your business. In other words, I'm stuck in making the business happen, so therefore I have not put a focus on actually learning to sell or implementing a sales strategy to grow the business. I see this all the time. All the time.
It doesn't matter what profession that you're in.
I see this with real estate agents. Real estate agents. I'm so busy. I'm so busy showing houses. I'm so busy going to closings. I'm so busy doing the paperwork, following up, doing these things.
Doing the steps.
That I forget to actually prospect to fill a pipeline to be able to sell to. And then the pipeline runs out.
One of the biggest ways I see this materialize is something that we talk about on all of our social media channels. And that is you're so stuck in doing what it is that you do on a daily basis,
right? Then
when it comes to actually asking for the sale, you're not asking for the sale. You may be presenting, I hate this word, options.
Oh.
You're not selling it. You're so doing the do, and you're so not focused on the value creation that at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, you could do this, you could do this, you could do that. What do you want to do, right? Options.
ABC.
So how do you get past being stuck in the do? Well, here's the thing. We've talked about two things that'll help you. You got to put sales at the foremost of your mind. That may mean number two, you got to get past disliking the profession or even the word. But number three, now that you've gotten to that point, you've got to incorporate sales as who you are throughout the course of a day. The stuff that you do may be urgent, but it may not be important. And I would say important is sales. And the stuff that you do, you know what? You've got a team of people around you, even if it's just one other person. Figure out what it is that you need to hand off so that the do is going to somebody else, so you can focus on having your priorities involved around value creation and sales. Because at the end of the day, nobody's buying what you ain't selling.
Nope.
Nobody's buying what you ain't selling. So you gotta start planning your day. You gotta start looking at your day. I'm going to be meeting with Mr. So-and-so at 10 o'clock.
That's the trap, man. That's the trap in every business. That's the trap in every business.
You just show up and you start work. Show up and you start doing. What's that other thing I had to do? Oh, what about payroll? What about this? What about that? Listen.
You got to follow up on this email. Got to do this. Got to do that. Got to do that. You're not making a priority to sales time.
I would challenge you to come into your place of business every single morning. And instead of allowing yourself to walk in the door and then start thinking about what all is it I need to do, here's what I challenge you to do. On your drive to your office every single morning, or when you first get out of bed and you're walking around, look at your day and plan when, what, and who am I going to sell to? Make that a priority, and when you come into the office, that's what you're thinking about, and that's what you're requesting of the people around you, so that you don't just walk in, plug in your brain, and get stuck in the do. This is a big trap, and you and I see it all the time.
All the time.
If you're a dentist, If you're an HVAC guy, if you're a repair guy working for an HVAC, then you're going out on calls, man. You're making repairs. You got to realize every single one of those is an opportunity for you to sell something. You've got solutions that you can present to people who have problems. You got to create value. But first, you got to be focused on, I can't get stuck in just doing the do, man. I got to set my priorities so I'm clear about what it is I'm trying to accomplish every time I'm going out there.
Yep. I got to have a goal. And I got to have a time. I got to have time set aside for that. It doesn't have to, listen, people think, oh, well, I've got to pitch 100 people. You don't have to sell 100 people at a time. When it's orchestrated properly and you're doing things intentionally.
I would submit they're already in your day.
Yeah.
They're already in your day, but you're so focused on doing the do that you're not focused on what you could accomplish in those things. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody's buying
what you ain't selling.
And
it's about having.
Well, wait just a minute, though.
Okay.
We talked about 3 big things. Nobody's buying what you aren't selling. And what we've run into over the last 20 plus years is most people are not selling because at the end of the day, they didn't get into the business that you're in. You didn't get into the service businesses you're in because you want to be a salesperson. But you got to change that in your mind. You got to make sales a forefront focus in your head. Number 2, you don't like the sales profession or even the word sales. You know what? If you don't get past this, you're not going to make it a priority, and like we said in number 1. So the number 2 thing you got to do is dive in and ask yourself some questions. Is it that you don't like the profession or the word, or is it that you got experiences from people?
You're putting some kind of connotation to it.
So is it right? So is it people, or is it the profession? And you got to dive in and do that. And the number 3 big thing we see is you get stuck in the do because you're not prioritizing your day about where the sales are going to come from. And that is what's going to have people buying because you are selling. And the reverse is true. Nobody's buying what you ain't selling. But if you will implement those 3 things, that will help you have happier clients, better results, make more money, and enjoy the ride. And that's why it is we come to you every single Wednesday at high noon Central Time with tips and tricks and all kinds of things that you can implement to have happier clients, better results, and making more money. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you like this video, please share it. You can find us at thecrabtreegroup.com. If you're seeing this on YouTube, hit the notification bell and then okay it so you can get all of our videos sent directly to you, whether you can watch us live or not. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday right here, same time, same channel. Have a good week.